Hi everyone, my name is Nick and today I'm going to show you guys how to use the raise hand feature in Microsoft Teams. This is incredibly useful if you want to get the attention of the meeting organizer or presenter, and it does ultimately 3 different things in Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to cover all of those for you. If you find this video useful, you know what to do, and with that said, let's jump on over to Microsoft Teams. Okay, so here I am just inside Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to create a brand new meeting just now. So I'm in the calendar, and for anyone who doesn't know, if you create a Meet Now from the calendar, this is a meeting that is specifically for you, and you have the ability to invite people in after the fact. If you, however, use the Meet Now function from inside a channel like this, you're basically inviting the entire Teams channel into your meeting right away, okay? So you might not want to do that. So for this purpose, I'm going to use the Meet Now from the calendar view. I'm going to give that a click, and it's going to start the meeting for me. I'm going to mute the microphone, but I'm also going to make sure that I am using the Logitech StreamCam as a webcam. That's my speakers, and that's off as well, so that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to click join now. Okay, so this then puts me into a meeting. Let's assume, however, there are multiple people inside our meeting, and what we want to do ultimately is get the attention of the meeting organizer if you have a question, let's say. And there's this little icon just here called raise your hand. Now, the other thing just to bear in mind is you might be using a different version of Microsoft Teams where this little bar is not at the top of your meeting. Instead, it is underneath your picture, your profile picture at the bottom. Okay, and basically what I'm doing here is I'm using the new meeting experience. So if you're unfamiliar with that, I will link that up the top here. So check out that video on how to activate it. And basically with that activated, you get this little pop-up box for your meeting, and it moves all of your controls to the very header of that meeting. So, you know, it's easier to access and it's not in the way of anyone presenting anything. Okay, so at the top here is where I have the raise your hand. You might have it down here at the bottom. Both options still work. Okay, now if I click on raise your hand, for example, you'll notice one thing just happened. We have this little icon here of the number 1 has appeared just above the participants pane. That's the first thing that's going to happen in order to get the attention of the meeting organizer or presenter. Okay, so they'll be able to see that there's a little icon above this section just here, and they'll be able to then figure out what is going on and who has a question. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens. That's the very first thing that happens when you click this raise your hand. Now, if we open this participants pane, the second thing that happens when you click on this raise your hand icon is a little hand icon actually appears next to your name in the participants pane. Okay, so if I turn that off, you can see the hand has disappeared, and if I turn it back on, the hand is there. So again, if this icon here is not visible to the organizer, but they do have the participants pane open, they'll see all of the various different people with questions and their hands raised. So if you're in a meeting of, let's say, 30, 60 people or so, then ultimately there may be a series of 10 or so individuals that have already raised their hand and have a question, and the organizer or presenter can go through those people, basically figure out what their question is and answer their question for them. And then obviously as their question is answered, the person can remove their hand and they can work down that list. Okay, so that's the second thing that happens when you click raise your hand. Okay, the third thing that happens is, unfortunately, I'm not able to necessarily show this to you, but basically inside a meeting, let's say there are 49 different cameras. Okay, so you're in the gallery view, and basically a yellow box appears around your camera feed. Okay, so let's assume that the meeting organizer or presenter has not seen this little number 1 icon or 10 icon or 20 icon, okay, in the participants pane. and hasn't got the participants pane open, so they can't see all the little hand icons of people who have questions, but they basically are looking at the gallery view. Well, in that case, yellow boxes will appear around all of the camera feeds where people have questions and have raised their hands. So there's ultimately 3 different ways of getting a person's attention during a meeting from a simple one-click solution. Okay, so the second that you click that, those 3 things happen, and ultimately, I guess the goal from Microsoft's perspective is to get attention of the presenter or the organizer in the most efficient way possible. So they basically add notification icon above the participant pane button there. They put the hand icon in the participant's pane, and then they highlight the camera feed with a yellow box around it to indicate that that particular person has a question. Okay, so it's actually a very useful feature to get your head around how it works and when best to use it. I wish I could actually present this in a different way so that I could show you what that looks like when you have that large gallery view or together mode, because it works in both of those methods. So well worth just kind of trying to figure out or start using this function next time you're in a meeting with multiple people. So you can start to actually see what happens and how quickly you can get the attention of, let's say, a tutor or someone who's presenting a PowerPoint document, etc. Okay, so a very, very useful feature that's been brought out. I think this came out maybe, must have been probably early mid August time, which is very good. Little feature that's been around for a little while. I don't think enough people utilize it, at least not in the organizations where I work. So well worth starting to use it, play around with it. Very, very useful. The other things that you can do to obviously try to get attention are things like using the conversations tab, but they're just not as effective as actually just raising your hand there. So hopefully, guys, that made a lot of sense, obviously, in how to join meetings, etc. I do have a few videos on that if that's of more interest to you guys, but I can't recommend it enough that you guys start to use the raise your hand feature inside Microsoft Teams. So the next time that you have a meeting, give it a go, see how you get on. I personally find it incredibly useful way of getting attention of the people who are presenting or the organizers of the actual meeting themselves. And it really does speed up getting the question answered the answer to the question that you have, basically. If you found this video useful, then you know what to do, and I will catch you guys in the next video.